It was really a very anxious moment for two twin dollies, who stood side by side in the window of a village shop. They were wax dollies, with golden hair and blue eyes. They were sisters, and very, very fond of one another. These dollies had always looked forward with dread to being separated, when the day should come for one of them to be bought, and the other left behind. Nevertheless, life in the shop window was very dull, and when the hot sun shone in through the glass, it was rather uncomfortable to wax dollies, besides being very bad for their complexions. But the summer had gone, and with it a number of bats and balls, china mugs, presents for good girls and boys, tin soldiers, and jack-in-the-boxes, and still the twin dollies remained behind. "It strikes me," said one dolly to the other at last, "that we cannot be so lovely as we thought ourselves. Nobody seems to take any notice of us." What the other dolly would have replied, it is impossible to say, for at that moment a little boy and girl came round the corner and gazed into the shop window, and both dollies listened anxiously to their conversation. "Now, Ella," said the boy, who was dressed in a sailor suit, "what shall we buy? I've got heaps of money in my pocket, so you choose your present." It was a long time before Ella could make up her mind, but at last she said, "I think, Jack, I should like one of those dollies." "All right," replied Jack, "but which will you have? They are exactly alike." After hesitating a little, Ella said she would like the one with the blue sash. So the children went into the shop, and Jack bought the doll for his sister, and a box of tin soldiers for himself. "And I think I'll have the other dolly, too, the one with the pink sash," said Ella, "to give to that poor little girl who was standing by the window as we came in, and who looked as if she were longing for a toy. Then Dolly with the pink sash, if she had been anything else but a dolly, would have fainted. Just fancy going to live in a poor cottage, whilst her sister was going to a grand house." "Very well," said Jack, "do as you like. But I don't see what the little girl wants with the doll. She already has a live baby in her arms." But the shopwoman wrapped up the two dollies in separate pieces of paper, and they only had time to whisper to one another, "Good-bye, dear. Perhaps it would have been better for us to have grown old together in the window." And then one dolly was carried off to live at the squire's big house, while the other went to the humble cottage. The dolly with the blue sash had a very good time of it for about a fortnight. Ella christened her Lady Victoria Vredenburg, and dressed her in a new dress every day, took her for drives in a perambulator, and put her to bed in a comfortable cot. Jack also treated her with the greatest respect, never failing to address her as "your ladyship" when he spoke to her. In fact, she was so very grand that she never even thought of her less fortunate sister. But this grandeur was not to last, for at the end of the fortnight Ella had a new toy, and poor Victoria lay neglected in the cupboard in the nursery, and there, no doubt, she would have continued to stop, if Jack one fine morning had not pulled her out, and not being able to find his cricket stumps, made a wicket of her, and bowled her left arm off. Then, when Ella and Jack went to the seaside, with spades and buckets instead of dolls, Lady Victoria was put into a box, in company with a lot of other broken toys, and was stowed away in a lumber room. Now, indeed, did she begin to think of her sister, and wished to be back with her in the shop window. In the meantime, the dolly with the pink sash was taken to the cottage by the poor girl who carried the baby, and she had no fine clothes given to her, and was only called Polly. At first she was very miserable, and would say to herself, "What a shame it is that I should be treated in this way, while my sister must be spending such a happy time with the squire's little girl. Here I have only one dress, and that is rapidly getting dirty. I'm not fit to be seen." But when she saw how happy she made the poor child and the baby, she began to think differently. The baby held her tight in her little arms and called her "Dear Dolly." And when baby got ill, so ill that she had to lie in bed all day, Polly kept her company. And when baby got worse, so much worse that she had to be taken to a hospital, Dolly Polly had to go too, for baby couldn't bear her out of her sight, the only toy she had ever had. And as Polly lay beside the sick baby in the hospital, she said to herself, "Wouldn't change now for all the lovely dresses in the world. I only wish my sister were with me here." And so strange to say, Dolly Polly got her wish. For the very next day, a big parcel came for the poor children, and on the parcel was written, "With Jack and Ella's love." We packed it ourselves, and inside the parcel were any number of toys, both old and new, and among them, with her left arm missing, her dress very much crumpled, and in a very bad temper, was Lady Victoria Vere de Vere. But as soon as she saw her sister, her naughty bad temper flew out of the window. She was so happy and delighted. That night, when all the little ill babies were fast asleep, and the toys talked and walked about, the twin dollies told each other their adventures, and Lady Victoria came to the conclusion to spend the rest of her days in trying to make little sick babies happy. Luckily for the twin dollies, Lady Victoria was given to a little girl who lay in the next cot to Dolly Polly's baby, so the twin sisters could see one another all day long, and Lady Victoria's baby loved her dolly as much as the other baby loved Polly, and that, you know, is saying a very great deal. Well, I am glad to say, what with the doctors and the nurses, and all sorts of nice things to eat, and of course the twin dollies, the two babies got quite strong and well. Dolly Polly went back to the cottage and lived happily ever after with her baby, and Lady Victoria was taken to another cottage with her baby and lived equally happy. Of course, it was very sad for the twin dollies to have to part again, but we can't expect to get everything in this world. To make little babies happy is something. A very great deal, the dollies thought, and so do I, and so will you, if you will try it. That is to say, if you haven't tried it already, which I dare say you have.